You're watching news at Prime. Let's get into this discussion now. Former Western Cape Legislature Speaker Masizole Mnqasela says he will take legal action against his former party, the Democratic Alliance. It comes after the National Prosecuting Authority has withdrawn fraud charges against him, arguing that there are no reasonable prospects of success. Mnqasela joins me in studio this evening to tell us about the way forward. Mr. Mnqasela, good evening to you and thank you for making time for us here. Let's get straight to it because when all is said and done, this is about personal reputation. How do you think, after this case, your personal reputation has suffered?
You know, where I need to start is that I was never charged. I was never charged. There were never charges preferred on me. It was the whole talk around me. I was never even contacted by the Hawks where they would say, via WhatsApp, email, call me and say, we need to sit with you. But all of these things, maliciously leveled against me, all of the allegations being punted in the media, which led to people doubting my character, my person, and my integrity. So where we are now, I feel vindicated. I've always said that there's nothing. I mean, there's no, this is a political assassination.
Yeah. There will be confusion among members of the public when you say you were never charged, because ultimately, I guess, charges were preferred against you, and that's the reason the National Prosecuting Authority in the Western Cape has come out to say it can't continue with this case because there are no prospects of success. So you were ultimately charged.
I was never charged. I was never charged. The Hawks can answer that question themselves, how they deal with the inquiry. Because this was an inquiry. The DA goes to them. They say, we think so-and-so has committed a crime. Will you please investigate this? Then the Hawks conducted their investigation, but they never spoke to me. I was never an accused. I was only tried in the media by the DA for their reasons to destroy my political character and my personal character, professionally and otherwise.
So let's take viewers back memory lane, because they will want to remember what happened.
Yes.
It was in May of 2022, the party claims that a whistleblower has come forward alleging that you have committed fraud. What was the main accusation against you by the DA?
Yes. Actually, that was the 19th of May at 6 p.m. I had my meeting with the Premier as the Speaker, the usual monthly engagements.
Who was the Premier at the time?
Alan Winde.
Right.
And I expected to find him there alone. I get there, there's this panel of leaders from the DA, your Michael Bagram, Tertius Simars. Michael Bagram used to chair the Jewish Board of Deputies. He's a labor law expert.
Yeah, someone that is used in the media a lot.
So, and then there was Glynis Breitenbach, who does all the legal work to deal with those that must be dealt with in that hatchet room called the FLC of the DA. So, but there were others as well, you know. So I sat there hoping that I'm going to talk to Alan alone as the Premier. These people are there. I'm asking him, so why are they here? He says to me, no, there's something very serious. I've got loads and loads of submissions made, documents, to an excess of 500, papers that were submitted. And I asked him, what is this? He says, no, they are whistleblowers in Parliament, staff of Parliament. That's how he put the matter, who say that you've committed fraud and corruption.
And this is about the travel allowances, subsistence allowances, and entertainment allowances.
Yes.
Did you do any of these offenses?
I dismissed that. In fact, I offered to advise them. I said, Alan, you're the Premier. if these people came to you in that capacity, don't you think you should have approached the speaker, myself then? And fortunately, I'm sitting here, before you. And the meeting was about us engaging in any case. So he could have said, hey man, Masizole, forget the speaker now. There's this thing, man. I would like to hear you, your views on this matter.
Yes.
I intend to take actions. There's nothing wrong with doing that. We're colleagues. We were colleagues, But this was about something else. It was about dealing with me for having dealt with a number of issues that they were not comfortable with.
Right.
But let me just say, it is about when you have lunch with someone who's discussing work matters, or I have coffee with you, say, Claudia, let's have coffee. They say, no, those things can't be work. You actually tell us, you need to tell us, how did you have coffee with Claudia? What were you discussing with Claudia?
So why do you believe then you were targeted by the Democratic Alliance? Because you've spoken in the past about why you think you were targeted in this way. What had you done previously?
I was targeted. Look, before I answer that question, this matter, it came out of Parliament, right? They said you've done A, B, and C in Parliament. So if there was anything that was parliamentary, they should have gone to Parliament for Parliament Conduct Committee to charge me. I said to Alan Winde, Alan, go to the Conduct Committee and charge me so that the Conduct Committee can investigate their member. And that will help you to have a solid case so that we can take it further. And if you're not happy, go to the Hawks, let them arrest me. Go to the police, let them arrest me. But start there in Parliament so that we can also help the Hawks. But previously, what I have done, there was an incident when I arrived as Speaker in 2019. Myself and my Deputy Speaker, we arrived. Beverly Schaefer, she was the deputy, An amazing woman. We worked together very well. But there was an issue now with her having two vehicles that were allocated. One was allocated to her as a Deputy Speaker. She didn't like that car. And there was another car which was an X5. There was this popular X5 story. And the X5, she was using it when she was an MEC, which is a minister in terms of the Western Cape Constitution. Yes. So when she arrives as the Deputy Speaker, she says to me, Masi, I would like to use my X5. I would like to keep it. I said, but it depends what the law says. So when I look at the legislation, the minister's handbook, which was what we were using at the time, the Secretary to Parliament says, no, Speaker, it's not allowed. It's her salary now as a Deputy Speaker is lesser than when she was an MEC.
Right.
Oh, she was angry. And she actually, one of the days, said, I would never again regard you as a friend.
Wow.
She said, we cannot get along again. And there was even a war between us, where it was very clear in the public eye that these two don't get along.
And yet you are the Speaker, she's your deputy.
Yeah, she's my deputy.
Let's conclude the matter around her.
Yeah.
Why, again, do you believe you were treated in this way by the Democratic Alliance and stemming from your relationship with Beverly Schaefer? What is it about that incident that provoked them so much, if indeed it is the view you hold?
Yes. On that specific issue, it led to Parliament incurring fruitless and wasteful expenditure because she refused to return the BMW. She inadvertently ended up with two vehicles, the DA for you. And they did nothing to her. They didn't touch her. So I then approached by the Secretary, hey, Speaker, we have to follow the law, and the Chief Financial Officer is saying, Speaker, we need to follow the law. And I've tried to intervene on this matter on various platforms, even with the party, saying, let's manage this matter professionally, and this woman must return the car. What's a car? You're not even paying an installment. It's a state car for that matter. She didn't want a Q5. She says she deserves the X5.
She didn't want an Audi
She didn't want an Audi Q5. So I then referred the matter to the state attorney. They did an investigation. She was found guilty. One, for violating the code of conduct of parliamentarians. She was found guilty for costing Parliament and the people of this country lots of money. It was almost 200,000 rands.
Let's move on then.
But they never touched her.
Yeah.
They never touched her. I was touched.
Well, it's interesting because it's the Democratic Alliance that I think would constantly speak about the Blue Light Gang.
Exactly.
All right. Let's talk then about your personal struggles after you are ultimately removed from your position, because at some point you are told by the party to resign.
Yes.
But you refused to do so. There was a motion of no confidence that would come for you in order for you to be removed as Speaker, but the process doesn't quite get there. Fill the gap.
They said to me, resign. In fact, Alan Winde that night on the 19th of May at 6 p.m. says, Masi, I think you need to step down so that we manage this thing, because we don't want the media to get the wind of this. I said, no, ignore the media. Imagine an MP that is a criminal sitting there, because they wanted me to remain a backbencher in Parliament. That is not a problem if I did nothing wrong, but you can't hide a criminal. That's what they wanted to do. So this thing has affected, me severely, because at the time I remember saying to them, why do you move a motion when you've got your own disciplinary hearing? I think that's what is important for the media. Sometimes media reporters, they're not specialists in this kind of thing. So often if we don't speak clearly on what it is that, is happening, they themselves started a process to discipline me in terms of the DA constitution, right? And I subjected myself to that process, having advised them to follow the parliamentary process, and they refused. So, all of that places me in a very serious predicament, because now I have to operate as a speaker, but I'm being threatened with being expelled, being removed as the speaker by the party that is still subjecting me, one, to the Hawks, two, to the DA process. But they don't want to come to Parliament and report me as a member of Parliament. So the motion did not, in fact, it was never going to pass, because the opposition and some of the own DA members were not in support of that motion. All
right, let's conclude the conversation.
Yes.
Then. What do you plan to do now? Because as we introduced this conversation, we said clearly in the introduction that you plan to sue the DA. Is that your intention? If so, where are matters now?
I've spoken to my legal team, having been with them throughout this period, saying that now we need to move to the next step. And that includes a lawsuit and various other processes. So it's going to be a full-blown legal feast that will be taking place in the courts of law.
People are going to say how much?
Well, they're going to say, how much do you need? I think more than anything else, Tolly, you cannot monetize damage to your personal, to your person. Because you can have all the money, but if you have been destroyed, your character, there's many people who have got a lot of money out there, but the character is gone. So I really need them to pay for that. And I need to work very hard to ensure that it does not happen again to another Masizole, because there's many other Masizoles there in the DA. I remember there's once an issue where there was a community called Paradise Park in Hermanas, and I said to them, can we expropriate this piece of land so that these people do not get evicted? But let's do so with reasonable compensation. Hey, they were not happy with me. That's one of the things, by the way, that made them to feel that this one is not part of us. But it was not one of those expropriate without. It was say with reasonable.
Okay. Mr. Mnqasela, thank you very much for your time, and we shall follow with interest where things go for you next. But thanks indeed for making time to talk to us tonight. And just to mention to you that we did reach out to the Democratic Alliance to say that we will be talking to Mr. Mnqasela and he is going to make allegations against your party, but they have chosen to not be available for this interview. In fact, they've declined the interview.